Have you ever just wondered how these massive tech companies go from a simple idea scribbled on a napkin to, a global powerhouse? Well, today, we are pulling back the curtain on the exact playbook they use. And here's a spoiler, the secret isn't just about having a great product. It's about having a masterfully built sales engine. So let's just start with the biggest question of them all, right? How in the world do you build a billion-dollar company? I mean, it sounds kind of impossible, but there's actually a surprisingly clear path that turns that simple idea into something huge. And it all starts with a very specific target in mind. And that target has a special name, becoming a unicorn. No, not the mythical creature. In the startup world, a unicorn is a private company that hits that magical $1 billion valuation. It's the gold standard, the top of the mountain. And today, we're basically mapping out the entire journey to get there. Okay, let's get into it. To really understand the sales engine, you first have to understand the car it's powering. So we're going to start with the big picture view, the financial life cycle of a startup, from that first little spark of an idea all the way to its ultimate end game. People in the industry often call this the funding alphabet. It all begins with an idea. Then comes the seed round. That's the first bit of money to get the idea off the ground, build a prototype. After that, you get into the big leagues, Series A, Series B, and so on. Each round brings in way more cash to grow faster and faster, until you finally reach the exit. Now, if there's one stage to pay close attention to, it's Series A. This is the great filter. It's where the rubber meets the road. See, it's not enough to have a cool idea anymore. Series A is that moment of truth, where a startup has to prove it has a real, repeatable, and scalable way to make money. It's the signal to all the big investors that, hey, this isn't just a fun project anymore. It's a real business ready for some serious fuel. And this whole journey leads to one thing, the exit. This is the finish line. It's where the founders and all those early investors finally cash out. And it usually happens in one of two ways. Either an IPO, where the company goes public on the stock market for anyone to buy shares, or an acquisition, where a much bigger company just comes along and buys them outright. So we've seen the financial framework. We get how the money works. But what kind of business model can actually handle that kind of crazy growth? Let's zoom in a little and look at the engine itself, software as a service, or as everyone calls it, SaaS. Honestly, SaaS has completely changed the tech world. The model itself is brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of buying software once, customers pay a recurring fee, usually monthly or yearly. Now, why is this so powerful? Well, for the company, it creates this incredibly predictable, stable stream of revenue. And for those investors looking for a unicorn, predictability is everything. It means they can pour gas on the fire and know with some certainty what the growth is going to look like. And this is the part you really have to get. Because it's a subscription, the relationship is the whole ballgame. You're not just selling a product and walking away, you're starting a long-term partnership. That initial sale, that's just the handshake. The real goal is to deliver so much value that your customer sticks around for years and years. All right, so we get the financial life cycle and we get the business model. Let's get even more specific. Who are the people on the front lines actually making all this happen? It's time to meet the unsung heroes of the SaaS world, the sales development representatives, or SDRs. For any company to grow, it needs a constant flow of new potential customers. This whole process is called pipeline generation, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it is the absolute #1 engine of a tech company. If that pipeline runs dry, the company stops growing. It is that simple. And that is the SDR's core mission. Their entire job, everything they do all day, revolves around one thing: finding, qualifying, and feeding new leads into that sales pipeline. Think of them as the gatekeepers of growth. They make sure the rest of the sales team always has new opportunities to work on. Now, there are basically two main flavors of SDRs. You've got your inbound SDR. These folks handle the leads who have already kind of raised their hand, right? They filled out a form on your website or downloaded a white paper. Then you have the outbound SDR. This person is a hunter. They are proactively reaching out to potential customers who might not have ever even heard of your company before. And any healthy company really needs a mix of both. Okay, so we've got the company structure, the business model, the key players, but what does the day-to-day actually look like? Now we get to the heart of it all, the simple, fundamental sales playbook that turns a total stranger into a happy, paying customer. But wait, before we even look at the steps, you have to burn this one quote into your brain. It is the golden rule of modern sales. It's all about a massive shift away from just pushing a product. The best salespeople today act more like doctors. Their first job is to diagnose the pain, long before they ever prescribe a solution. And here's how that doctor philosophy plays out in a really simple 4-step process. First up, qualification. This is like triage in the ER. You're not trying to sell to everybody. You're just making sure you're talking to the right kind of person who has a problem you can actually solve. Next, and this is the most critical part, is discovery. This is the diagnosis. You ask a ton of smart questions to deeply understand their specific challenges. What's not working? Where does it hurt? Only after you've done that do you move to step 3, the presentation. See, this isn't some generic pitch. It's a custom-tailored prescription that shows exactly how your product solves the specific problems you just uncovered. And finally, if you've done those first 3 steps right, closing the deal just feels like the natural, obvious next step. So let's just tie this all together with a bow. What are the big things to walk away with? First, remember that unicorn growth isn't some kind of magic. It's a structured financial journey, with Series A being that critical proving ground. Second, the engine that powers that whole journey is the SaaS model, and it's built entirely on long-term trust. Third, that engine gets its fuel from SDRs. They are the pipeline builders. And finally, the most important rule of all, the one that governs every single sale, you have to understand the problem before you ever try to present a solution. So you see, from that huge, grand vision of a billion-dollar company, all the way down to a single sales conversation, it's all connected. It's all part of this clear, repeatable process. We've just handed you the playbook. So the only question left is, what are you going to build?